Are the next 4 games for the Mavericks the most important 4-game stretch for them this season? And I say that in the context of where they are currently in the standings right now. When you look at the Dallas Mavericks, they are currently the 4 seed right now at a record of 43-28, and they sit a game and a half up on the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets for the 6th and 7th seeds in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, they're 2 games behind the Utah Jazz for the 4th seed currently. Of course, if you get the 4 seed, you will have home court advantage in the first round of the NBA playoffs. So, General, I'll start with you, and then Brian, you go ahead next. Are these the 4 next games, the most important games of the season? Tonight against Minnesota, then against Houston, then they take on Minnesota on the road before coming back to take on Utah next
They're
Sunday.
Definitely the 4 most important that are remaining. Maybe I could look back and find another 4 in a row that were this impactful, but I would doubt it, KG. I mean, this is incredible with Minnesota right on your heels and Utah now in front of you. If you handle all of your business, you can avoid the play-in and maybe still get the 4, but if not, you could find yourself in the play-in and possibly be in a 2-and-done type of situation. That would sting. So, yeah, the Mavs have not been shooting the ball as well over the last couple of weeks as we had gotten used to. And I hope that's not regressing to a mean. Hopefully they can, play the kind of super efficient basketball that we have come to expect and can plow through this, really tough stretch. They also have to do it to prove that 3 games that we had last week was no fluke.
That's right.
So I think for momentum and then actual just the math of the standings, you got to be dead on right about that. I'd be shocked if it's not the most important 4 games.
I'm going to say they are important, but for a different reason.
Okay.
I think something bad's about to happen at Golden State. Because Curry's injury sounds like that's going to carry him out the rest of the season, right?
It's potential that you may not see him. Well, you're not going to see him for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah.
They're hoping to get him back by the time you get to mid-April for the playoffs.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, though, that maybe that 3rd spot might be something that maybe Utah and other teams are starting to look at. Maybe you have Golden State fall through, you and stuff like that. Maybe you could find a way to maybe move up in the standings or your positioning. I don't know how good Golden State's going to play without Curry in the lineup. Lost last night, right, to the Spurs in a game that he did not play. I think there's more of that. I think that's a team that's kind of on the edge right now. They always seem to have an injury thing that derails them at certain times of the year. So I'm going to say that, yes, I know it's to the Mavericks the next 4, but I think their teams are eyeing bigger prizes, maybe. And if the Mavericks can find a way to win these games, maybe automatically go look at the 4th seed, if you keep playing well, and then all of a sudden you get a Golden State collapse without Curry in the line.
Or you stay at 5 and Golden State slips to 4. I could see that.
But maybe
either way, that 4-5 match
you're 4 behind Golden State right now. So, maybe all of a sudden they go on a bad little skid and you're winning and Utah's winning and you find yourself, maybe
not to get too cute, but maybe you split with Minnesota. Denver keeps on winning and you end up in the 6 against Golden State in the 3. Whatever the case is, you can't get wrecked and fall all the way to the 7.
Yeah. To me, I'm looking at a team that I believe needs home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs more than any other team in the NBA. Because what we've seen from them last year, I would have loved to have seen a Game 7 at the AAC against the Clippers, knowing how the Clippers were able to come into the AAC and really Kawhi Leonard having one of the greatest playoff games that we've ever seen and what he was able to do to get them back to Los Angeles. But when you look at these 4 games between Minnesota, who you've got to keep distance between the 2 of them. You can't afford to lose either one of these games this season. Now, the good part about the matchup tonight and the next matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves in a few days, Luka Doncic didn't play in the first 2 matchups this year. They split those 2 games back in December, 1-1. Now Luka Doncic is available, presumably going forward here. So that changes, obviously, the dynamics that you're going to see on the floor. And with the way they've been able to play in clutch time with Spencer Dinwiddie, their defense is going to be tested a lot in these next few games, especially even though Houston isn't necessarily a great team, they can score, and they can score the basketball pretty well. So I'm looking for this defense over the next 4 games to see if they can carry them, and even when they're not shooting well, remain in games. Because the game against Charlotte, you allowed Charlotte to hit over 23 pointers in that game, and they shot the lights out, especially in the 3rd quarter. How they play in clutch time, defensively, how they play, to me, is going to tell me a lot about how this team is. And then with the additional pressure being put on them, knowing where they are in the standings, I want to see how Jason Kidd and his team rises to the occasion. I think they have it in him. We're going to see if that gets proven over the next 4 games, especially for a team that has the 3rd best record in the NBA since January 1st. That's how good this Mavericks team has been. That's going to be put to the test in these next 4 games.
And they're up against great big men, as we continue to see this post-Porzingis defense try to perfect its craft. I think there are going to be times where it does not matter what you do. The other guy's just better. I think that happened against Embiid at times. And it could very well happen against Karl-Anthony Towns, who kind of gets lost in the conversation of the great big men in today's game. But if he is in any behind Embiid and Jokic, it's a half step at most.
Yeah, what's interesting, though, about Minnesota, and you mentioned about the big men, is they're 26th in the league in defensive rebounds. It's a team that's in top 5, though, when it comes to offensive rebounds. But they launch a lot of three-point shots. It's always funny. I remember watching the Timberwolves before they've really got good. I mean, Derek Harper was saying, this is a very good team that's really disorganized. When you start talking about the number of shots they take, are they really creating anything, or are they just launching shots? But, man, you guys are right. I mean, they're a team that you're going to have to reckon with because of the number 3, and they're really good at shooting the 3. So can the Mavs slow the game down enough? Can they handle things on the offensive side of the glass? Can they maybe make it tough on some of the shots that miss? Could they get their rebounding going to where some second chance points? Yeah, that's always with the Mavs. You never think about the second chance points, but
team rebounding has to be huge for them. Defensive rebounding has to be big for them.
It seems like especially when you play Minnesota, that it's one of those teams that's really they're good on the offensive end, but bad on the defensive end of it.
Yeah, you've got to be able to close out possessions by getting defensive rebounds. You don't want to give a team like Minnesota second chance opportunities, especially with a guy in Karl-Anthony Towns who can score in a variety of ways. Anthony Edwards can score in a variety of ways. So for this team, their playmakers are going to have to really step up in these games someone's got to come with Luka on these nights. You saw what happened in Charlotte the other night. He went off. Nobody went with him. Nobody went with him.
Everybody was on the plane.
Exactly. Everybody was ready to get back to Dallas except for Luka, apparently. So their playmakers are going to have to really show up in this game, in these next 4 games, to really give us a better indication that when we get to the playoffs, this is a team that can be able to handle adversity and be able to overcome it when they have the opportunities to do so in that way.
Yeah, and we're hoping we're watching this team evolve into that. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was Luka after the game that had the quote, "We're growing up." And I would say that has been accomplished. They're turned into a much better crunch time team. Yeah. They're not kicking away leads. Yep. They're able to win with offense or defense late. But outside of that, the other context is we've seen this team hit heights for a sustained period of time, but not long enough to cement that in. 6 weeks is like, oh, that's really exciting. Have they taken a big step? But now we're in a lull on the backside of that.
And that happens, I think, in the ebbs and flows of seasons where you'll have games where they're playing terrific stretches, tied together defensively, playing well offensively, and then some nights you're going to be off a little bit. And I think the last couple of games you've seen that, not that the loss against Philadelphia was a bad loss, because that's a really good team. The Charlotte loss, I was more concerning just given the way that they lost in that game.